Welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast, a podcast for everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. Every week, I am joined by successful guests in all different industries and stages of business who will share what their experience was like transitioning from employee to boss. Expect action steps, inspiration, and hot topics. This is a resource for you if you're wanting to start a business, go all in on your side hustle, get to the next level in your thriving business, or just hear what it's like taking the leap to becoming your own boss. Business can be very lonely, but it does not have to be. I'm your host, Haley Hayhurst, the owner of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast production agency specializing in editing, marketing, and strategy. Let's dive into today's topic. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Employee to Boss podcast. I have an amazing episode for you today. My guest is Alena Florie, and we're talking all about what does it take to actually turn your passion into a successful business. Alena is the owner of Alina Lauren Photography. She is an award-winning portrait photographer specializing in women's glamour, headshots, and boudoir. Her goal is to empower women through fully customized magazine-style portrait experiences. So in this episode, we're talking all about her experiencing with pricing, overcoming imposter syndrome, starting her own business, and really finding her niche in the large industry of photography. And she shares the strategies that she's using to scale her business to become full-time. I highly recommend you go look at Alena's website because she has beautiful photography and I'm excited for you to go check it out. So all of the links for myself and her are in the show notes. Make sure you check those out and reach out to us if you have any questions or any feedback. I always love to hear from the listeners of the Employee to Boss podcast. All right, so let's get right into this episode. Hey, Alena, thank you so much for joining me on the Employee to Boss podcast. I am so excited to talk all about photography and starting businesses today, so welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big listener, so I'm excited to be here. Your podcast has helped me so much so far, so.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And we met at a networking event, and,
Yes.
We're both in Seattle, and I feel like the creative scene here for professional networking has really been popping off lately. I don't know
Yeah,
about you, but I feel like I'm seeing such cool events everywhere and I'm meeting the coolest people. So when we met, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to get you on my podcast. We need to continue this conversation. So
absolutely.
yeah, I love that. So why don't you start by telling us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Alina. I run a business called Alina Lauren Photography, and it centers on empowering women and helping them feel confident in themselves. So I do magazine style portraits, so kind of fashion inspired, and that can be anything they want from personal branding to boudoir to modern glamour. It's really just like a customized full day for women just to feel great about themselves and leave with beautiful pictures that they have forever.
Yeah, and your photography is gorgeous. I will say
Thank
I'll
you.
link your Instagram and also your website in the show notes for anyone who wants to maybe go look at it while we're talking, but it's amazing. So I know that you've done different industry photography, like products and, boudoir, like you just said, newborn events, things like that. So what did your journey from employee to boss look like? Take us through that.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, first of all, for the compliment. Yeah, it's been a long journey. Photography has always kind of been my thing. I started in high school with film and darkroom. Just kind of signed up for the class because I thought it would be fun, not expecting for that to become my career goal,
Yeah.
but I just kind of fell in love with it. So from there, I decided to go to college for it. So I did go to photography college. I graduated there in 2006. So I've been on this journey for a while, so 17 years. I've done everything from kind of crappy photography jobs like working for, shooting yearbook photos to newborn in the hospital and then also at, clients' homes. And then got into product photography, which is my current day job, and kind of niche down. My husband and I started a business when we moved to Seattle in 2015. to do weddings. So we did weddings for a while and then very quickly realized that just wasn't for us. And so I kind of niche down to focus on really what I love doing. And my favorite shoots were always shoots with women. And just for fun and just doing creative kind of fashion inspired shoots. I used to do them with my friends just, on the side. And I was like, I wonder if I could turn this into a business. And I found a great like mentor group of other photographers. And one of them specialized in specifically that, glamour sessions for women. So it was great to learn from a photographer that was doing it and putting it into action. And since then, I've been with this community of photographers that has honestly taught me so much more than I learned in photography school, which is funny. They teach you a lot about the technical side, but not so much of running a business. So learning from other photographers about how to run a business has been really great, and actually how to price yourself sustainably and how to actually run the numbers so you know what you need to charge and you know how to actually run a business. Because for creatives, that's the last thing we know. We just want to create art. We don't want to, do numbers and math and all sorts of not fun stuff. So that's kind of where I ended up now.
Yeah, no, that's so true though, because with, something that you're creating, like you're taking photos, you're creating that, it's a passion of yours, but at the same time, it is your job. And I know that, I always hear this with like weddings and anything dealing with weddings. Everyone is like, oh my God, everything is so expensive. But it's, a craft. It's all these people's crafts.
Yes.
And so it's I want to talk to you about pricing for sure and kind of what you've been
Yeah.
doing to price yourself, because I know you are in the scaling part of your business where you're in the transition to go full time into it. And, when you have another job that you can rely on some money, it might be hard. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it might be hard to, price what you're worth when you're like trying to get clients and grow and all of that. So, how has that process been? Like, what have you been doing to know your worth when it comes to pricing and then sharing that with your clients?
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. There's definitely a lot of kind of deep work that you have to do on yourself too to understand, I am worth these prices. Because when you actually put the pen to paper and write out all the numbers and then realize, okay, this is what I have to charge, you're kind of like, oh my God, that's a big number. Like, and the imposter syndrome kicks in and you're like, can I actually charge this? Will people pay me this? But it's true. I mean, it kind of makes it a little easier to actually write out those numbers and everything you have to pay for, especially a photography business is an expensive business to run. All the equipment is expensive. All of the software is expensive. So writing out all of the things that you have to pay for every month, plus your cost of goods, so your products that you are going to sell to your clients, your beautiful albums and your luxury prints, and all of these are done and made really well so that they're worth these prices, but you have to actually figure out how much they're going to cost you. And then you actually have to make a salary for yourself, which is really hard, So you have to write out all of your own personal finances and like, what do I actually need to make to earn a comfortable living? Because most photographers, when we start out, we all charge $50 to $200 for a session. You get all of the pictures, right? And that sounds like a lot of money at first, until you break down all of the work that you end up doing and all of the, the taxes that you have to pay, all the costs of doing business. Once you list them out, you realize that $200 is not going to be sustainable long term. Right. And to actually have time, because you could do a million $200 sessions, but then you're going to be burnt out real fast. Yeah. And I did spend a lot of years trying to do that on the side of just cheaper sessions. They call it shoot and burn in the industry, where it's you take all the pictures and give all the digitals, and it, it works while you're learning for sure. That's a good way to get experience because you're getting clients. But once you actually do put those numbers down, you start to realize, this isn't going to work. If I'm going to do this full time, I actually need to charge a decent amount to be able to make what I need to make. Yeah.
Totally. And you've been doing this for a long time. I know you just said like 17 years. And so I'm curious, at what point are you done with the learning cheap sessions and then go into like, I'm a professional, this is what I do. And what all comes along with that, like mindset shifts, all of that.
It definitely is a journey. For me, a big help has been entering my photos into photography competitions and getting feedback from other professionals and getting grades that, okay, you are professional standard. You can charge professional prices. And you can charge the professional like industry standard pricing, which I feel like I probably should have been at a while ago, but actually kind of getting the feedback from other peers in my industry has definitely helped with the confidence a bit, and getting the feedback from clients so far and seeing how they react to these photos and how much they mean to them is a big part of it, and getting kind of that proof of concept that yes, people will pay these prices because they find value in it, and you're not cheating these people out of their money. You're actually giving something of equal value to them, and they will pay for it because they see the value. So it's
Yeah.
just about finding those people that want what you're offering, and they won't have a problem paying your prices. A lot of people have a hard time because they're taking those clients that they were charging $200 for a whole session and trying to get them to fit into this box. But you have to realize that these are completely different people, and trying to realize like some clients might come with you and might, if they feel connected to you, they might see the value in these new prices and come with you, but not every client is going to. So learning to kind of readjust and find your new client is also a big learning process, which is something that I'm working on now. So
Yeah, right.
yeah.
That's so true because, the clients that you might have been promoting to when you were charging 200 definitely is going to be a different audience than whatever you're charging now that's more, right? And did your branding shift while you did that? Because I know now that you do luxe photography, you have a very luxe website as well.
Thank
So
you.
did that, change while you were
Yeah.
changing?
Yeah, for sure. You definitely, I mean, it's not just all of the branding too. It's the service change, because when I was doing these $200 sessions, they were very quick. They were very, okay, you show up for the session, we shoot the session, I send you the pictures, and then we're done. I never see you again. This is more of luxury service. It's a full service. So I spend a lot of time with my clients beforehand, getting to know them, so they feel comfortable with me, for me to be able to capture these really good connected portraits. And a lot of time goes into that. So I have an initial consultation where I talk to people, and then I also have a full design and wardrobe consultation. And I send them a bunch of information of how to prep for their shoot, and I'm very connected with them up through their shoot. I do in-person sales now, so I actually sit with them and help them pick out their pictures, which is also part of the service. The shoots are a full day just for them. All of the attention is on them. So, I mean, I'm spending way more time on each client. So it's definitely more of a luxury, personal, one-on-one experience, more than just, okay, I'm coming, we're going to take the pictures, and then you're getting them, and then that's it. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a deeper, more involved process. And I feel like the luxury branding absolutely goes hand in hand with that. It's kind of, one of my mentors uses a really good analogy. Shake Shack is a great burger place. Not the cheapest, it's not like McDonald's. Still a very good quality burger. But then you have Ruth's Chris, which is this fancy steakhouse where you're getting this really nice burger and you're getting this incredible service when you go there. There's a time and a place for both, but there is definitely a difference in the experience that you have, and you're willing to pay the price for that Ruth's Chris burger, not every day, but that's something that you'll do on a special occasion. And then, Shake Shack, there's a time and a place for that. You just want a really good burger, you want it fast, you want to just eat and be out, and that's fine too. So you have to understand that there's always going to be room for both. Ruth's Chris isn't worried about, Shake Shack, and Shake Shack isn't worried about Ruth's Chris. They have their own individual business model, and that works great for them. But there's a difference in the service, the quality, everything. So
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also a difference in what you expect when you go to one of those places. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, difference in what they expect when they come to a photographer like you who is luxury. And so
Hmm.
that's awesome that you sit down with them and really get to know them because I'm sure having that personal connection helps with a few things. Obviously, it helps them feel more confident during the shoot
Hmm.
because I want to learn more about like who you're photographing, but I'm sure that this, you know, I think a common thing with every photographer I've talked to is like you have to build up their confidence a little bit. Like you are
Yeah,
their hype woman. And so
exactly.
having talked to them before and know them a little bit and maybe know what they did that weekend or like
Hmm.
what their kids' names are or whatever it is helps them with that confidence. So who is it that you are, you know, selling to? Who are you taking photos of?
It's funny, you talk about like niching down to very specific markets, but honestly, I feel like my market is any woman that wants to be photographed in this way.
Mm.
So I have photographed women in their 40s and 50s. I've photographed women in their 20s. I've photographed women from all different walks of life. It's not just like rich ladies that can afford this. You know what I mean? It's people that find value in seeing them true selves. A lot of times these women have gone through like a big change, either whether that be a new career shift or a divorce or something that's taken a huge emotional toll in their life and now they're ready to kind of rebuild. I feel like this is an experience that every woman should have because it helps us see ourselves in a totally different way. I think it's really easy for us to get down on ourselves, especially the way society is around women. Like almost every industry is marketed towards, what we need to fix or what we need to change about ourselves. And we see that every day in and out. Like what's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? What we need to change. So having this experience where you get to come in and just be yourself and see these portraits of you looking like maybe you've never seen yourself before and realizing like, wait a minute, I am beautiful and I didn't have to do anything. I just showed up. I think it's a big shift for a lot of people. And just seeing women like, tear up and say, "Is that me?" Like they can't believe it. That's definitely like hits me as the why. So,
Yeah.
although like yeah, I need to market to specific clients, I feel like as being my authentic self online and showing up of here's what I do, here's the experience that I offer. It's just getting that out there enough so that the women that want this experience will find it.
Yeah. And I'm curious, like, what do your clients use these photos for mainly? Is it just kind of like one of those pivotal moments? Or, yeah, like, is there common uses you see for these photos?
It runs the gamut. Some of them use them for their personal branding and headshots. I like to do, I offer them up to 5 outfits so they can capture every side of themselves.
Yeah.
So they can come in for headshots and branding, and then maybe they want to throw a tulle robe on and do some fun glam shots, or maybe they want to try some boudoir. I really don't limit the session. If they come in for one thing, we can do a bunch of stuff. Like the main question I ask is, how do you want to be photographed? Which is something that a lot of people haven't even thought of. So crafting that session and really finding out, like, how do you want to be seen and how do you want to feel when you look back at these pictures? Some of them, just use them for the personal branding or social media. Some of them get folio boxes or albums. And whenever they're having one of those really bad days where they're kind of feeling crappy about themselves, they can look back at that album and be like, oh, right, that's me.
Yeah.
That's that girl. And kind of
I
bring
love
themselves
that.
back to how they felt that day.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
they could buy a wall portrait and it doesn't even have to go in their living room. It can go in their closet if they want or their bathroom.
Yeah.
But they get to see that every day and be like, that's me.
Right.
And kind of bring that confidence that they gained that day out into the world.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I just moved into a new apartment. I'm in West Seattle now, and I have a fireplace for the first time. Will I ever use
Yes.
it? No. I grew up in Las Vegas. I don't know how to use a fireplace. But I was like, I could totally just put a big photo of me up there. Everyone
Hell
that walks in will
yeah.
be like, Haley, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm living my best life.
Exactly. I love it. I feel like we need more of that. I hate the idea that like having pictures of yourself is a vain thing, because it's
Yeah,
not.
right.
It's just it's a different form of self-love,
Mhm.
and nobody should feel shame for that. I feel like it's, anytime I see a selfie that someone posts, I'm like, hell yeah, girl. Like, you're
Yes.
feeling yourself today, and I love that. I feel like
Yes.
women need more of that, and I think this is a way to do it. I go back to, my grandmother is a huge inspiration for me. I actually have her tattooed on my arm, but she always hated having her picture taken. So she really would kind of hide away from it. My aunt also took photography class, and she photographed her for one of her class projects, and that's actually the picture I have on my arm. But it's like, you don't realize how important these portraits are of you almost sometimes until it's too late. And not to make that a morbid thing, but when your friends and your family are looking for pictures of you one day, like, what are they going to find?
Yeah.
It's important to have these pictures of yourself, and whether or not you have kids or friends or family, but one of these days they're going to look at these pictures of you and be like, wow, that was her at that time.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that's a very important thing that people don't always think of. Women,
Yeah.
especially, are always the ones setting up the photo shoots for the kids and taking the pictures, but very rarely are they the ones that are the focus and the center. And it's always hard to find really good portraits of just women, because they prioritize capturing that of everyone else in their life, but they're not always the ones in front of the camera.
Yeah. Is this something that, back to marketing and how you reach these women? Obviously, you can tell them that they're beautiful and deserve this, but it really is them that has to decide, is
Yeah.
this worth spending my money on? Like, am I
Right.
worth spending my money on? So, are there common objections that you have to deal with?
Oh yeah, a lot. A lot of people feel guilty, women especially, spending money on themselves. It's a big
Yeah.
thing. So it's one of those things where it's not like a wedding where people are seeking this out to go get
Hmm.
photographed. You know what I mean? It is one of those things where they have to see it repeatedly and decide that this is what they want. So that definitely plays into marketing. It's like, I have to, that's kind of what I'm building right now, is kind of repeatedly putting this out there so that the women that follow me are seeing it,
Yeah.
and kind of getting it in their head that, like, yes, like, I do need this, you know what I mean? And getting past that point of, oh, that's selfish. I don't need pictures of just me, or I don't, I feel like seeing it and seeing the experience and
Hmm.
understanding that, like, the benefit that a lot of my other clients have gotten from this, and that it's more than just pretty pictures of yourself. It's actually an experience. It's almost therapeutic. I've had, some of my clients have said, like, one of them told me, I feel like I got a job because of this photo shoot.
Oh my
She
gosh.
said,
Like,
like, I took that confidence into that interview, and I feel like that's why I got booked. She's like, I was just thinking of how I felt in that photo shoot, and just that confidence was coming out of me, and I could feel it in the interview. And she's like, I feel like that's why I got the job.
oh my
So
gosh.
a lot of
Wow.
these women are taking these, like, feelings and that they're getting in this shoot and out into the real world, and it's like really helping them in big ways.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that, and I can totally see how that's true. Like, if this is okay, I was watching Real Housewives last night, and there was
Nice.
this one
Love it.
girl, she's like new on the show, and she's so all about her family, which is great. Obviously being family oriented is amazing, but she lost herself, and someone pointed this out to her. She just broke down crying, and now she's doing all these things to like live her life again. But I can
Yes.
totally see how this is one of those stepping stones, and that's what you're selling, right? You're selling not just the photo, you're selling this whole experience, this whole, and I think that when we are selling any service or product or whatever it may be, we're so focused on like the physical thing. Like if I
Yes.
was just talking about starting people's podcasts and I was like, I am starting your podcast, you'll have a podcast.
Yeah.
Right? That's of course what I'm selling, but what I'm selling is helping them professionally set up their podcast so people can then learn from them, hear them, they can feel heard, they can impact more people's lives, they can spread their message and all of these things. That's kind of like the undertone of what people are
Yes,
selling. And so I
absolutely.
love that we're having this conversation because selling is not just what they get
Hmm.
physically, it's really like a deeper emotional thing for
Yes.
sure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the pictures are just a bonus. You get these pretty
Yeah.
pictures you get to look at. But really, I feel like what you're looking at those pictures and feeling is those feelings that you had during the shoot where you
Hmm.
were finding that confidence. It's so funny because they all come in very nervous and like reserved and
Yeah.
shy, and they walk out like with this like shoulders back, like hell yeah, like I am a badass, you know? And that's the best part of what I do. I feel
Yeah.
like anyone that puts that kind of passion towards what they do, it's like it is contagious. You know what I mean? Like I have a true why that's not just I want to sell pictures to people. And just
Hmm.
like you, the podcast is about like what are you talking about in your podcast? Is this something that's important to you? And I feel like portraits are so much more important than people give them credit for. They're not just pretty pictures. Like it's a feeling that you get. Like you get to see yourself in a totally different way that you've never seen yourself before, which is
Yes.
really hard when you're just looking at phone selfies and, you know, tagged pictures and all the stuff, and then you're comparing it to these magazines and these celebrities, and actually getting that experience and seeing like, oh, I can actually do that too. It's not just, you know, the Kardashians. Like I can have this like beautiful day for myself where I get to look at these pictures and just like, wow, that's me, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So before someone comes in, works with you, do you tell them what next steps to take? Like, I'm sure that a lot of them want to get professional makeup. Do you partner with different like makeup artists or hairstylists, or what does that side of the business look like, especially
Yeah.
while you're growing and like building your network?
Yeah, I originally was going to offer hair and makeup. My studio space is very tiny. One of the benefits of a startup, it's a very, very tiny space. And I found that it just wasn't working. It was too crunched. It added a lot of time to the day. And I found that the women that chose to just kind of show up as they do every day, just, you know, they do their own hair and makeup how they would if they were going to work or wherever, but it's how they look in a normal day and showed up. They tended to get a lot more from the session because
That's so
they
interesting.
showed up as they do every day and they saw these pictures of themselves. It's like, I didn't even need to get a whole makeover. Like, this is me every day in these pictures looking like this. So I kind of decided, like, not to offer that as part of what I offer. I will give them resources. So if they want to go get their hair and makeup done, here's some places you can go. I also have like a hair and makeup guide if they do want to do their own like tips and steps to do your makeup specifically for photo shoots. But I found that it's a lot more rewarding when women show up as they are every day and see themselves in
Yeah.
this way.
That's so cool. That is so
Yeah.
cool. Then that like feeds into your values as
Right.
well. And, as you are trying to figure out, you know your niche, you know who you're helping, you know your industry. But I think when you do start getting more clients, it's good to know like, is this a client who wants to show up as they are, or is this like more someone who wants full glam? And that's good to know because
Yeah.
while you could help both, maybe one stands out to you more than the other.
Right. Maybe one is really going to gain something from this experience. Not that there's anything wrong with getting glammed up. I think that's totally great.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of being pampered. So, absolutely, if someone wants to get glammed up, no
Yeah.
harm there. And it's something I may offer as an option down the line if I once I do have a bigger space. But I don't want to have to rely on that. And I think for now, this works out fine. And the women, whether they've had their makeup done or not, are gaining something from it. So I don't think it's a necessity. Other photographers might disagree, and that's totally, totally fine. But you know, from what I've experienced so far, I feel like this is the route for right now that I'm finding is helping and working.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, you know, I also want to hear about the business that you're building now and going all in. So, for anyone who's listening who is in the same stage as you, they've decided they want to go all in on their business. They're ready. what steps are you taking to build up your clientele, get the systems in order? I know that there's a lot of back end work that you're doing right now. So, can you talk us through maybe some of the steps that you're taking to be prepared to go all in on your business?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a lot of, kind of the not fun stuff, the building the SEO and, working on Instagram reels and planning out posts and stuff like that, which is the stuff that creatives are like not into, which is totally fine, but it is all part of it. It's kind of like setting up all of the different marketing arms. So I'm working on trying to set up an email list right now. I'm doing as many networking things as I can while I still have a day job. It's a little hard because a lot of them are during business hours, so trying to find some of those after hours ones or weekend ones that I can go to. Trying to work on a blog right now to try and help with my SEO. Yeah, a lot of different behind the scenes avenue. I'm working on a Pinterest, but what I'm really looking for is consistency. I need enough consistent bookings in the door to be able to justify leaving the paycheck for right now. So I'm trying to at least match close to what I make a month at my day job to be able to justify leaving. So right now, that's why a lot of the stuff is towards marketing and SEO and working up, like actually getting the clients out there. I've actually also applied to a couple grants just to kind of help me hopefully get some money for paid advertising and stuff like that. Working with coaches or SEO experts, some of the stuff that I'm not as strong at, I'd love to be able to outsource, but right now, the budget's a little tight. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm working on behind the scenes. It's just a lot of computer work, SEO, Instagram, building all of that up to try and get some organic leads to kind of help pay for some of the other stuff.
Yeah, and that's all stuff that pays off. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, those are all some things that I'm still working on now. Like I've
It's an
started a
ongoing
blog,
thing for
right?
sure. Yeah.
Totally. Started a blog, stopped a blog, started, it's just one of those things that consistency is more important than, right now I'm trying to focus on like prioritizing
Yes.
everything.
It's a big one.
Such a big one, especially
Yeah.
while you're in that scaling phase. But thanks so much for walking us through that. And I've absolutely loved this conversation. And as we
Yes.
start to wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to touch on that maybe I didn't ask you yet?
I don't think so. I think we covered a good range. But, if any women out there, want to see themselves in a different way, reach out. I am here. Even if you just want to chat, I would love to chat.
I've loved this whole conversation. We talked about pricing, we talked about what you're doing to grow your business, we talked about selling the result and like the details rather than just the end product. And I think these are all really important conversations to have. So, since we did cover so many different topics, I would love it if you gave the audience 3 next steps to take this week to wrap up like what this conversation is all about. Instead of them just listening and then turning it off, being like, oh, those were some good tips. Let's challenge them.
Yeah.
So, how would you like to challenge the audience this week?
Figure out your numbers. That's number one. Write down every single thing you have to pay for as a business, even stuff that you don't pay for yet, but you know that you're going to, such as subscriptions, softwares, anything that you think you're going to need. Write it all down. Figure out actually how much you're going to have to pay every single month. Figure out how much you want to make take home. Figure out how much you have to pay in taxes, how much gets taken out for sales tax. All of those numbers are so important to learn when running a business. And that's like the number one thing I say for everyone to do first is like, if you're going to set your prices, you have to figure out exactly why you're charging these prices. You can't just throw some number to the wall and see what it is. Like there's actually something behind those numbers. And then 2, find a great community. Networking is great. I love women's networking. I really connect with women. Find other people in your industry. I super believe in community over competition. I love the photographers that I know. It's great having even other business owners in your circle. That it's a very lonely thing to run a business. Not all of your friends do it. So having other business owners that you can run things by is huge. And then 3rd, try and do one thing every day, even if it's small. Especially if you have a day job, it's really hard to come home from work and try and work on your business. Like, you're tired, you don't want to do anything else. But just find one small thing that you can work on. If you have a really big task that's really scary, try and break it down into smaller, like, subtasks to kind of get you progress towards that big thing.
Oh my gosh, those are all great tips, especially that last one. I find that a lot of people in my community, in my world, are like, okay, I want to start a podcast, and they keep pushing it off and off and off.
Yes.
And when we dive into it deeper, it's because starting a podcast is not just one thing.
No.
It's like a million different smaller things, like get photography for your cover art, create your cover art, figure out what you want to talk about, who are your guests, all the details. And so I love that last tip. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, is breaking down maybe that big thing, because it's more than just one step. It's not like you're going to wake up one day and start your business.
Whole thing. Yeah.
Right. It's like slowly.
Or even like working on a website, right? That's such a big thing. You're thinking about the entire website. It's like, no, just write this section of the About Me today. You know what I mean? Or this
figure out where you want to host it, you know?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, it doesn't have to be
helpful.
this giant project that you're so scared of, because you know it's going to take so much time. Just break it down into little tiny bits and work as you can.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Well, Alina, thank you so much for joining me. Where can the audience find you if they want to work with you or chat with you? What are your links?
Absolutely. My website is alenalauren.com. So it's ALENA and then Lauren, the traditional spelling, .com. And then my Instagram is Alina Lauren Photo, PHOTO. And I'm happy to chat with you on any of those.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me again. And I'll put all of your links in the show notes. And if the audience has any questions for either of us, my links will be in the show notes as well. So I loved this conversation and cannot wait to talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. It was great being here.
Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.